Hey, what's happening, everybody? Welcome back yet to a brand new video. Today we're going to talk about Wells Fargo and how they shut down your personal lines of credit. And if you've been affected by Wells Fargo, what are some of the things that you need to do to better prepare moving forward into essentially creating an opportunity for yourself where you can now go out there and restructure your credit building efforts. Now, if you've been, obviously listening to me for some time now, you guys know obviously that I put a lot of effort into making sure that we have a very structured and streamlined process of leveraging and building your personal credit. A good part of that requires us to be very considerate towards the elements of looking at some of the bankable relationships we're establishing. Sometimes these bankable relationships fail us. They put us in a very uncomfortable situation. For example, obviously in this situation we're discussing Wells Fargo, where your personal line of credit may have been affected and they essentially shut it down, right? Your personal line of credit right now is gone and you're now converted into an installment loan where you have a certain amount of months to pay it down, perhaps 4 to 5 years or whatever the case. If you've been affected by this and if you're basically taking a hit due to that aspect, my first thing I would say to you guys is number one thing you should absolutely do is to consider thinking about pivoting towards other bankable relationships, simply because diversity is extremely powerful and important. We talk about having leverage, right? We talk about having a significant amount of savings that you can stack up and diversify that stream of savings across multiple creditors. These bankable relationships, as you start to establish them, you have to start with good faith first. And what I mean by that is you need to have a deposit that is secured, that comes out as a revolving credit against that deposit, as a collateral, right? So if you are a part of Wells Fargo as a client base, and let's say you had a personal line of credit and your utilization on that line of credit was really low, and that means you had a lot of limit left, typically speaking your utilization would be drastically affected if that account was shut down. And typically speaking they would have shut it down right away, right? So if that be the case, you're in a situation right now that you got to think about, well, now that my utilization is gone completely, because now it's turned into a liquidation, right? An installment loan that you got to pay off and so on and so forth. If that's the case and it's already gone, then that means that you don't necessarily have much of a choice in terms of what are some of the next steps you need to do. So my recommendation, like I always say, is, okay, well, now it's time to go across the full spectrum of the different creditors that you guys have, right? Let's analyze every single creditor that you have. Let's analyze exactly what the situation with those creditors are, specifically given the fact that where do you sit with them in terms of utilization, right? Take some of that money that you otherwise would have spent and pay down some of the other creditors. Increase the utilization efficiency or effectiveness. From that perspective, you guys can start to move and pivot towards establishing new relationships. The reason why this is extremely critical is with a low balance on your creditors, specifically across the full spectrum of all the different creditors you guys have, you can now start to go out there and leverage brand new institutions, build that deposit, go from that perspective, create a revolving account from that deposit, and start to stack up that relationship effort, right? Stack up that and harvest that relationship over time. Some of you guys might have a lot of debt on some of the balances that you're carrying with your credit cards. It's extremely high. And if that be the case, and if you're close to maxing out your credit cards or something like that, then my biggest advice to you guys is try to leverage the same amount of money that you would have surplus if you have some savings set aside, and create a balanced liquidation program for yourself. And what that simply means is you have your minimum payments, right? Now take that money, and usually what happens is some of the credit cards can take up to 15 to 20 years to pay off just on the minimum payment basis. What you got to do is you got to accelerate that. You got to find a way to leverage the liquidity you have, your income that you already have, restructure that income model, restructure it in the sense that you actually have control over that, and from this angle start to aggressively pay that down as comfortably as you possibly can without pushing yourself a little bit too far. This is extremely critical when it comes to making sure that you have complete control over the leverage of assets, right? Including your personal credit, which is a very powerful asset. If you are able to do that, and if you're able to materialize something of this synergy or situation, then you guys are going to be in a very good position, because now you can essentially take this information that you've just simply applied and then repeat it with the other creditors that you have. If you have $25,000 of a balance on a credit card and you're almost close to maxed out, then the first steps obviously is to bring that 25 into 23 maybe in a few months, then from that 23 into 18 in a few months, and from 18 to 12, and so on and so forth. It's really to understand the financial merits and benefit of full control over the stability of your personal credit, right? So again, I do understand and sincerely hope that individuals who have been affected by Wells Fargo shutting down their personal lines of credit have a way into getting a situation where they can go out there and establish new bankable relationships, albeit it's not going to be easy. It's a process, it's a step that you have to be willing to take. But I encourage you guys to try nonetheless, because this is the step that you absolutely need to cover in order to move forward anyways, right? So these are some of the things that we really need to understand and articulate very clearly, and be very creative with that process. So with that said, I hope you guys take this advice on establishing new bankable relationships. And the reason why, Wells Fargo did shut down a lot of these personal lines of credit was back in the days, Wells Fargo was scrutinized by the United States government, right? Like the National Treasury, for the mere aspect of creating accounts that are not necessarily real accounts and leveraging bonuses for that, and employees taking advantage of that situation. So they've been under extreme levels of scrutiny with billions of dollars of fine paid out to the government. On top of it all, they haven't really done so well, post that situation. So what they've done is they've streamlined the process to keep everything in-house, try to offer financial products that makes the most sense for them so that they can streamline it and keep it simple. And of course, from that perspective, they had no choice but to go this direction and actually shut down those personal lines of credit that you guys may have contained or have access to. So I hope that you guys have a clear direction on what to do next. Bankable relationships, are very critical, and they're profound to how your credit is established over time. There is really no shortcut to this. Credit repair, first of all, it's not damage, right? So, but credit enhancement and just removing those negative items and being very strategic with it is just one piece of the pie. Like I said, it's a 20% of the pie. 80% of the pie is moving forward with the established financial bankable relationships that you guys create and how you harvest that. What are some of the financial activities that lead to more confidence from those creditors extending to you credit over time without the necessity of going through a hard inquiry or a hard pull? If you want to have access to that, you need to demonstrate keen financial confidence by having a very structured payment plan and having full control of your financial stability, demonstrating that you're worth getting more limits on, right? Demonstrating that your financial capabilities are proven and the mechanism of getting more limits is automatically adjusted based on the algorithm, okay? So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, don't forget to destroy that thumbs up button. Don't forget to subscribe if you're new here. If this is your first time watching, I teach about financial education, personal credit, and of course, transformation on a wealth perspective. So with that said, this is definitely your guide and mentor, Ali Tarafdar. I'll catch you guys in the next video. Bye for now.